You're listening to the Building and Branding Podcast, brought to you by Virtual Vision. I'm your host, Amanda Stichter. On this show, I sit down with experts in the restoration and home services industry to hear their stories of how they built their businesses to succeed and stand out. Our conversations will uncover the challenges they've faced, the strategies they've employed, and the pivotal moments that defined their paths. We'll also dive into the critical importance of branding and marketing in this field, sharing insights on how to create a compelling brand that resonates with customers and stands out in a competitive market. Join us as we blend practical advice with inspiring real-life stories, providing you the tools and motivation to craft precision and build a lasting brand. Welcome to Building and Branding. Let's get started. In this episode of Building and Branding.
This one feels like home, you know? It's kind of an industry that brings you back, like really when you're out of it for a while. You go, I kind of like that industry. It's small enough, but it's big enough. When you let people be who they are to set up even what makes them tick, they rise to the occasion. So the boats float to their own level. Competition keeps us strong and it keeps us progressive. It opens your mind because otherwise you're just like in a little box. I think it's really actually very important to have competition in some point. It's a striving for excellence. My dad used to say, that's how you grow. Ultimately, there's always something better waiting for you at the next step. And it's important that we all move forward knowing that and feeling it because there's enough to go around for everybody.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Building and Branding Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Stichter, and today we are here to have yet another great conversation with someone who's well known in our industry, and I'm personally really excited to talk to. Today I am joined by Darlene Balzano. Welcome, Darlene.
Thank you, Amanda. It is great to be here. I'm very excited about this too. I haven't gotten much into the podcast world, but here we go.
Here we go. I don't know. It's kind of one of those like Alice in Wonderland rabbit holes. You start to go down it and you're like, oh, okay, well, welcome to the podcast world.
It's out there, right?
Well, Darlene, why don't you start by just giving our listeners a quick intro, who you are, what you do, who you're representing, and then, gosh, we'll just dive in.
Okay, sounds good to me. I am the group publisher of Restoration Remediation, and most people know it from R&R. And then also I oversee the exhibit booths and the sponsorship with the Experience Show, the Experience Trade Show, which is coming up at September 4th through the 6th in Las Vegas. So I am the publisher of both of those, and that's with BNP Media. So BNP Media has quite a few brands. I think about 60 brands now, 40 trade shows. So I am just representing just a little piece of the pie with R&R. So I've been with R&R 2013. I was there, and then I left for a very short time and then came back. Briefly.
Just couldn't stay away, could you?
Couldn't stay away. You know, it was kind of like familial. I mean, it felt very familial when I came back. Like, this is like a work family, you know? And it was like I would like to say I went like backpacking through Europe, except for I didn't. And I was just gone for a year. And I actually went to another media company, but I soon realized they didn't have as much to offer, really, even the advertisers like BNP Media does. So happy to be back.
Yeah. Well, it's great to have you here today. I'm excited to talk with you a little bit more. So I had the opportunity to meet you through your husband.
Yes.
He was on my podcast when he was still with R&R several months ago. And gosh, I've kind of like lovingly referred to you two as the dynamic duo ever since I've met you, because I could just like, if I need someone to like pick up my day, I'm just going to go find one of you two, because you're always going to make me smile. You and I have had some great chats at our booths near each other and at the past few shows. So I have no doubt today's conversation will head in some of the same directions.
What a compliment. That is a very nice compliment because you know what they say, you don't remember what you say, but they may remember how you make them feel. So that was a very nice compliment.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's very, very true. Well, Darlene, so how, here's my question for you. So R&R, I mean, this is, it's a pretty like niche industry, restoration
Yes.
remediation. I'm not sure. I think everyone that I've talked to on this show has come a little bit into it with the like, either they grew up in that business, so it was like a family thing, or somehow they like fell into it and then just never left. So,
Yeah.
how did you enter the world of restoration and remediation and sort of find yourself in this very niche industry in the US?
That's an interesting question because I kind of divided up into two portions because the one
Okay.
portion is, I'm done B2B marketing. And then the other
Mm-hmm.
portion is what industry are you in? I've been in many different
Yeah.
industries within this. I started in 97. I started in like just in inside sales with a
Mm,
publishing
okay.
company that was in Cleveland, Ohio. So that was after I moved back. I moved back from the West Coast and I ended up getting a job there and I loved it. And that's where I met my husband. So I met him there. And that was, I was in all kinds of different. They had fax. We had a fax magazine at that time, fax machine that
Hmm.
I was selling advertising
Oh,
in.
as in like I was thinking FACTS, but like
Right.
FAX, like fax,
Facsimile, a
phone fax.
facsimile, yes.
That's
So they
awesome.
had magazines and then they had fax magazines. And it was Travel Agent Central, like Travel Agent Magazine. You probably remember that. Or maybe, no, you wouldn't remember that. But Travel Agent Magazine. So I've been with that business industry. I've been with American Spa. You may have seen that magazine. Um,
No.
I've been with Pitt and Corey, which is a, concrete quarry kind of thing. I've been with Nightclub
Mm-hmm.
and Bar, so Nightclub and Bar magazine, which was
Wow.
a lot of fun. And actually John Taffer from Bar Rescue was my boss
Yeah.
that I actually worked for him
No way.
before he went to his before he got his show Bar Rescue, so
Wow.
I've been in many different industries and I'm sure I have forgotten like five of them. So I've been in drug topics, I've been in, but this one was the one that kind of stuck, like restoration and
Hmm.
remediation. I first came for an interview with Restoration and Remediation in 2012, and I was not hired, and shame on
Okay.
him. Shame on him. But but, but then shortly after that, like probably within like 6 months, the next publisher called me up and said, why didn't he hire you? I go, I don't know. I mean, apparently he just is not thinking straightly. And he ended up hiring me and we just had so much fun. And then it's kind of neat because we kind of worked on our own and it was kind of like
Hmm.
an orchestra. Everybody did their bit and we all came together and a great team, So we ended up
Sure.
growing R&R and it has been fun within this industry. For some reason, this industry, I like nightclub and bar. I did like American Spa, but this one
I was gonna
is,
say, am I allowed to ask you which of those was your favorite? It
but
doesn't
I
have to be
love,
this one.
but I think, but this one is home. This one feels like home, you know?
Hmm.
And I don't know if that's because of the
Why do you
longevity, you know?
I was gonna say, why do you think that is, though? Like, is there, outside of the longevity of it, was there something in just who you were working with and what you were doing that made it feel more homey to you?
I think the people that I was around, like the people that I worked with, people like yourself, people within the industry
Mm.
overall, I think it's kind of an industry that it kind of, brings you back, like really when you're out of it for a
Mm,
while, because you go, kind of like that industry. Like when you step out, you take a
yeah.
look back. And it is very
Yeah.
familiar. And when you see people and you recognize them and you see them again, it's like, yeah, okay. It's you you remember each other, and it is, like over the years you build the connections. I know some people when I first
Yeah.
started, I didn't talk to for 3 years. And then, you know, eh, you just end up making friends with them.
Hmm. Hmm.
And some
Yeah,
people right away,
absolutely.
of course.
It's so
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
It's so true. I think that the reality is, and it takes a little bit. I remember when I first came to my first trade show back in the restoration industry, it was probably back in 2021, I think. So it's been a few years now. But I remember walking in and not really knowing the last time I had been at a restoration event of any sort. I was probably like 3. Maybe actually that's not true. I shouldn't say that. I specifically remember going to a restoration event when I was 15. So okay, so it had clearly been a while.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know what to expect. And I remember walking in and watching the way that people interacted with each other and watching even my counterparts that I was there with find these people and hug them. And I'm like, I don't know that I've seen this in any other like
Right.
convention setting where people, it's not just like, oh, we're work colleagues, we know each other, but like, no, I genuinely care about you as a person. How are
Right.
you? What's been going on in your life? Those.
Yes.
I thought
Yeah.
that was so cool.
Yeah, you're right. And it just kind of happens that it just, and everybody's different. Everybody has their own different personalities and stuff,
Mhm.
but everybody's pretty much accepted, and I think for the most part, and because it's small enough, but it's big enough. I mean, it's just really
Yeah.
is the right size, to really make you feel that way too, you know?
Yeah. I like that statement. It's small enough, but it's big enough. That's
Yeah,
so
like
true.
even,
And
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was going to say, so when I first came back, I went with dairy foods. I was with dairy foods industry, wonderful industry. And who doesn't like cheese, you know? And
Right.
there's some wonderful, wonderful trade shows, with like CheeseCon and, but I mean, it's
Hmm.
so huge. It's a huge market. When you would go to like the Pack Expo trade show, we're
Hmm.
talking four
Hmm.
halls that are open, and you're walking for miles and miles
Right.
and miles and miles, just to see someone. And then with this, it's
Yeah.
almost like it's more doable. Like you get to understand, like, what is that what's that product again, or what's that service that you do, and you really get to understand what they're doing. So then you could see them grow, or in my
Hmm.
case, help them grow. And then it's
Hmm.
so it kind of unfolds, and that's how I liken it as far as for the size of it, because that was just
Yeah.
huge, huge, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I think we often use the phrase because I think one of the, like when we work with people on their marketing, one of the questions we ask them is like, talk to me a little bit about the competitors that are in your area. But
yeah,
I don't always like that question because, of course, like at its core, the companies that we're helping and even the companies that you're working with, like we want them to get the jobs and they obviously want to get the jobs over their counterparts.
true.
However, it's a small enough industry that we can recognize who those competitors are, but it's also
Yeah,
big enough that like there's going to be enough jobs for everyone to go around.
right,
And it is a big enough industry with a big enough impact that we don't have to look at each other like we're constantly at odds with having to fight for the work. We can
right.
support each other in that. And I think that even brings that like family feel to life even more in the industry.
But I think, Amanda, a lot of people don't have that good attitude like that. There is enough for
Mm,
everybody. So there's enough for everybody all the time. Some people think that there's only a
yeah.
little bit. And if you take that little bit, then that's not going to be enough for me. So I think
Right.
it's like a mindset that you do kind of have to look at it, that there really is enough for everybody.
Yeah.
And actually, competition keeps us strong and it keeps us progressive,
Mm,
and it really
mm-hmm.
is, it opens your mind because otherwise you're just like in a little box. You're not thinking really about anything else. So I think it's really actually very important to have competition in some point, you
Yeah,
know. You just got to
absolutely.
always, it's a striving for excellence, and that is what kind of gets the striving for excellence that continues to go on. It's not in a
Hmm.
bad way. It actually is in a very healthy way, I think. It's like just like some of the feelings that we have, like guilt or stress or all those kind of things. Those are put in our life for a reason, so that we
Yeah.
can use them to use it as a notice, like, okay, I feel like that about that, so I shouldn't do that. So all these things I think kind of fall in line with what it's supposed to be. And I think that's
Mm.
okay, like the competition. But like you're saying, it's smaller, so we know it, we see it.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody has their
Absolutely.
strengths, and that's important.
I like that you bring up that topic of just, supporting each other and also having that competition to really spur you on to push you further to,
Yeah.
to help you strive to be something more than you are right now. And I know that in your role at R&R and R&R as a whole, like your goal is to come alongside these businesses, not only offer like educational pieces with it, but also like really help them in bringing their businesses forward. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like you've obviously done this for a number of years. You've worked not just in this industry, but from your perspective, like what are some of the most important aspects that you look at when you talk about in your role assisting businesses like take that next step, push themselves to be better?
Right. Well, I think I can't see what it is for them. They have to let me know what it is
Mm.
that they're looking for because
Yeah.
people don't know what they don't know, but I know I can help them to get there. So it
Yeah.
depends on what it is that they are looking for. I think it's very important that I'm a good listener, the two ears, one mouth scenario, that I'm a good listener, that I
Mm.
help them to meet the goal that they're looking for. Like, I'm not going to tell them
Mm.
what they need to do if they feel as though, like, I didn't think that. Now, on the other hand, some people will come in and they'll say, I want to do this. And it's like, that's
Mhm.
interesting. Why do you think that you need to do that? And, you know,
Sure.
sometimes it just could be that Uncle Matt told them that that's what they should do, and they got that idea and they can't let go of it.
Right.
And then
Right.
once we take it down and we take a look at, well, why? Is that going to meet your goal? Now,
Mhm.
will I turn it down if that's what they still want to do? That's what I'll say. It's like, I'm not going to turn you down, but you should not be doing that, you know, because they're not going to be happy in
Right.
the long
Sure.
run. And we're building businesses here.
Right.
We're building businesses by branding and lead generation and content marketing. And there's engagement that needs to go even between your ears that has to happen in order to make it happen, and the messaging has to be
Right.
right. And sometimes it's not something that you're thinking of. It could be something else that a professional that is in the industry can bring to light. And that's what I'll do with it. Being in marketing for so long, I could really bring to them. Well, 97's not that long. That was
Absolutely.
just a few years ago.
That's right. That's right. I think I like that you bring that up because I think often, especially in this industry, these owners and this is no like fault of their own. Like they get stuck in a little bit of this tunnel vision of like what job am I doing today and the actual essence of the service that they are providing. When in reality, there's so much more to market in their business than just this service that they provide. And you talked about that a little bit in what you just said of understanding that there's different ways to promote your wording and understanding how you're pushing your business forward. How do you help businesses see past that block of like the service that they're offering to, how they're then going to promote it, whether it's in R&R or in other capacities, there's some education that has to come with that. How do you generally approach that conversation? Hey listeners, we've got some exciting news for you from one of our sponsors. If you're in the restoration industry and looking to gain a strategic edge, you won't want to miss the upcoming Rebuild Conference, brought to you by Business Mentors. This isn't just another industry event. Rebuild is the Restoration Technology Conference. It's designed to bridge the gap in the tech revolution facing our industry, providing focused education and an interactive all-in-one trade show. You'll have the opportunity to connect with top technology players and explore the best solutions for your business. Here's what you can look forward to. All the best tech and digital companies and platforms in the industry, all in one place. Keynote speakers and sessions that are dedicated to benefiting your business. A partnership with Know-How ensures clear and actionable takeaways from every keynote and workshop session. An interactive trade show floor where you can get hands-on with the latest technology. This is the first event of its kind in our industry, changing the way we approach trade shows and technology and restoration. Register now through August 15th to save $300 on your registration. So don't wait. Secure your spot today and take the first step towards transforming your business. For more information and to register, visit rebuildconference.io. That's rebuildconference.io, October 28th through the 30th in San Antonio, Texas. See you there.
There's definitely some education with it. They are in business to sell their product or service. They are not in their business to do marketing. So that's why they're talking to me to do the marketing, to get out in front of the restoration specialist, to get in front of that restoration contractor. They're talking to me for that very reason, So, I mean, everybody, you're not going to please everybody. And as far as please them, I mean to ultimately help them to do marketing for them with the brand, But for those that you can help, those are the ones that are more open about it. And those are the ones that you're going to be able to reach the ROI that they're looking for because they told you what it was. You don't have to guess. They told you, so then it's easy to help them. I've built many, many, many of brands with this industry and with this brand in particular. And this is, it's easier when you sit down and you listen and you share and you educate, I mean, that's what it's all about. It makes it fun even. And why not, right? If we could have fun too. Very, very important.
Absolutely.
Yes. Very, yeah. So it's fun. I love it. And I think when you do love it and you love the industry, I think that comes out, I think overall, it makes a difference.
Absolutely. That's very, very true. So I am sure that you have walked a lot of companies through a lot of different roads. Is there like during your time being in this industry, specifically within like restoration, is there a story that like stands out to you as a part of your journey, whether it's something that someone told you or something that happened specifically in your work that you've kind of clung to over your timeline working in this industry?
There's some things that I have had even with like just training in publishing and training in sales with the publishing of helping people that I have stuck to over the years, that I still use, like even on my agenda items, I still hang on to those, but I think one of the things is when you let people be who they are to set up even what makes them tick, they rise to the
Yeah.
occasion. It's like the boats float, right? So the boats float to their own level. So then you
Hmm.
kind of, you select what it is that's important. Now I have a few funny stories that I have ran into over the couple years, and those are, do you want to hear them?
Okay.
Those are kind of funny,
I
and I'm
mean,
sure,
I'm always up for a good funny story.
I'm sure this, I'll give you a good one. The one was someone who had a duct fogger, right? So,
Hmm.
for on in the vents and everything, and I was talking to them, but they were texting, and it came back, yeah, duck, not that, not the fogger. So funny. And it, and we still see each other to this day, and we just laugh about that. So very, very funny.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
plenty
yeah,
of instances in this industry where autocorrect
yeah,
likes to say,
yeah.
I don't think that's
Like,
the word you're trying to say. I'll just replace it with
it's
something
like just a
else.
voice texting, and you shouldn't probably be doing that. Another one was when he was passing. This was uh, David DeBald from American Network Insurance, and he was passing on the advertising for that month. And his daughter told me that he passed, and I thought he passed
Oh,
away.
no.
And I said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I told the editor at that time, which was Eric Fish, I go, "Eric, oh my God, I'm so sorry that, because I know you knew him for a really long time." And then I got back on and talked to Angela, and he goes, "No, he passed on the advertising." So,
Oh, no.
yeah, so
Yeah,
those were,
that's definitely not a story you easily forget, is it?
so glad he's still around. So glad he's still around to share the story with me,
Oh,
you know.
that's
But those
funny.
were those were
Yeah.
some of the funny ones. But as far as to go back into, like, as far as like what you've learned, I mean, just to help people to genuinely listen is like such the key. And I think, for those of us with strong feminine sides, we're good at that. I think we are just like
Yeah.
good at that, you know, which is not just women, men too.
Hmm. Do you think uh, and you're absolutely right. Like realistically, whether it's in business or in our personal relationships, listening is the strength of building any of those, right? Understanding
Yes.
what someone really wants or is looking for, even if they say, "Well, I'm looking for X," they might not be looking for that at all. If you
Right.
listen, they're actually saying, "Well, I'm looking for Z." Um, Arbitrary letters, obviously, but
Yeah.
I think that you brought up such a good point in understanding that no matter what you're looking at, especially when you're working with businesses, you can't just jump to the conclusion of they know exactly what they want or I know exactly what they want. We have to start with the foundational aspect of listening to understand
Yeah.
rather than like listening to respond, right?
I think you bring up a good point as far as when we had print magazines and print magazines only, what would happen is you would call like on a monthly basis and say, there wasn't a whole lot of strategic marketing planning going on there. It was more or
Mm.
less,
Hmm.
throwing. Now, believe me, I mean, it was easier peasier, at that time because
Mm. Sure.
you didn't have to listen. But in the same ways that's a lot of the beauty of it because we do get to know really, the
Hmm.
core of the business, ultimately how it ramps up, how it like
Hmm.
shapes down, and what it is
Hmm.
that they want to put across even in like sometimes I can't help thinking about marketing. When they're talking, I'll hear like, "Oh, well, that would be a great campaign angle to go that way with it."
Hmm.
And that's fun. I mean, that's just a lot of fun to
Hmm.
be able to see the artistic creativity come out with that. And that's
Hmm.
that's That's how businesses are made, just by
Yeah.
brainstorming and sitting around and brainstorming and being able to have open dialogue, which is just so important, you know. To
Mm-hmm.
go back to that first person who didn't hire me, I probably would have never been able to have open dialogue with him. And
Mm.
that makes a difference. I mean, that makes a difference in my life. It makes a difference in my success that I'm able to do that, you know,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
and it's fun.
Absolutely. Man, those are some really good nuggets of wisdom. And understanding too that even like you just said, sometimes there are moments in our journeys, in our careers where we go, why on earth did that just happen? Like we can joke all day long that, well, like you're fantastic in what you do. And, I love the opportunity to connect with you, but you probably also wouldn't be where you are today if you had been hired in that first role, right? Like if
For
you
sure.
didn't have to go do something else and wait till you had the right support in the open communication. So I'm a big proponent of like, this is why I like to hear people's stories to understand like sometimes those setbacks are the things that actually push you forward
Right.
to being able to grow in your role and end up where you're at today.
For
They're
sure.
growing you, you know?
And you never see it. And then my dad used to say, that's how not that's how it goes, that's how you grow. I mean, and that's what he used to say all the time,
Mm,
like with everything. And you don't
mhm.
know what's in store. And ultimately, we're really not in charge, but we do have free will, and we
Right,
do the best we can with what we have. But,
right.
ultimately, there's always something better waiting for you. So, at the next
Hmm.
step. And it's important that we all
Hmm.
we all move forward knowing that and feeling it, because there's enough to go around for everybody all the time.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Darlene, I'm so grateful for our conversation today. I know you've shared a lot of really great pieces that I'm excited we were able to dive into
Thanks.
the concept of listening and looking back at our stories and just growing from them. Before we end here, though, one question that I ask all of my guests is if there is one tidbit of wisdom that you could give to those who are at any point in their journey that are in this industry, or I guess it doesn't have to be even into this industry specifically, but what's something that stands out to you that you would tell them?
Let yourself be happy. Some people do not
Mm,
let themselves be happy. Sometimes it's like, I don't know, like either they feel more alive when they're burdened, or they feel more
mm,
alive when they're stressed, or
mm,
let
mhm,
yourself just be happy. It's okay to be happy, and just be happy with where you're at. Things are gonna,
mm,
you know, be okay. Just let yourself be happy. That's
mhm.
really important. There's a book out now, it's
Absolutely.
called Practical Optimism, and it's a little different than just being optimistic. A realistic optimist is you really
Mm,
do know what's going on around you, but you're still optimistic about it. And that's very important that you
mhm,
remain optimistic just about life in general. It doesn't mean that you don't see
mhm,
what's going on, or, in any given
mhm,
situation, but optimism is really important, and to let yourself say, "You
mhm.
know what? I'm going to be happy today." That's real
Yeah.
important overall.
Sometimes it is really a choice.
Yes.
That is not to say that there obviously aren't a lot of other forces that can take place, but sometimes you do have to make that choice of I could choose to dwell on this situation in front of me or this and allow myself to feel stressed or let it burden me. Or we could
Yeah.
say, in spite of that, I am
Yeah.
choosing joy
Yeah.
today. I'm choosing to be happy
Yeah.
about this. And I think that's a great, great piece of advice.
Yeah. Yeah. Easy peasy.
Hmm. Right. Right.
Mhm.
Well, Darlene, I'm so grateful for our time. Thank you for spending some time with me today to chat. So appreciative. If anyone would want to reach out, any of our listeners, what would be a good way for them to follow you or reach out?
Yeah, I mean, you could reach out through LinkedIn, or you can email me at So you could just, go
Sure.
to the rnrmagonline.com website. So you could find me there as well. And, I think you may have this posted with this, if I'm correct. I
The
think so.
we'll with the links
Yeah,
and things. Yes, we'll
yeah,
put all of that
yeah.
with it.
Yeah. So, but I think you, Amanda, I mean, this was great. It's always nice talking to you. I think you bring out the best in people, and that's a gift that
Oh,
you have.
thank you.
Yeah, it really
Thank
is.
you. That's so kind. I
Thanks.
mean, I appreciate that very much. Well,
Yeah.
Darlene, thank you again. For our listeners, be sure to tune in to our next episode of Building and Branding. That'll be coming again soon. We're grateful for your time today, and we'll see you next time.